Welcome in, everybody. Sorry about that opening. Happy Friday and welcome to the Just Jump In live stream. Let me know you're out there and that you're listening, and we'll see if I'm actually reaching people and if you can actually hear me. All right, so looks like we are live on YouTube. And I'm just checking, and if anybody can tell me if they're on Facebook and seeing this live stream. I'm trying to multi-stream. It didn't work last week, but I think I fixed that issue. However, I am double checking it here. Welcome in, Chris. Welcome in, Gopher Girl. Good to have you in here. We're off to a slow start, but it's been a long day, and so I'm just double checking if we've got the okay. Looks like we are in there. Thank you for confirming. Appreciate that. So look at that. So you appear, so I can see the chat note. I can see the chat, and it's showing both Facebook and YouTube. So very good. Thanks, Mom. So I saw the pictures in the texts, so I appreciate that. Art, welcome in. Nice to have you in here. Yep. So I don't know if I'll get those pictures up, but I do have. It's kind of not. It doesn't look great because it's a kind of a still of a Facebook video, but my aunt put up a video of my mom's booth where the storefront is, and they had to, I think they had to rejigger some things. So it looks a little different, but it still gives the idea. Hopefully they're showing the front end of the storefront as well when they can to folks, but we'll see about that. And Tom, welcome in. Nice to have you in here. As we're getting started, this is the first time I'm successful streaming both on Facebook and on YouTube, and I'm using Restream. That's what's given me the chance to do that. I felt really good the beginning of this week. I had I kind of got back on the horse, as they say, and got back into some of the stuff I was stalled on, and have a couple other little tidbits for you tonight. So let's start with 3D printing. So I had the blob of death again that broke some parts on my 3D printer, but I obtained the parts and everything, and I got back printing. And so I did some test prints, and a couple of them are right here. So you probably can't see them real well, but these are some insulated joiners in HO scale. This is HO scale track that work just fine. I don't have to, if I need them, I don't have to go out and buy them. I can just print them now. They take just a short time to print. You can print a whole bunch and use them as needed. I didn't design these again. Again, I sought these out online and was able to find them for free. I assume that I could essentially, if I were just to use plastic rail joiners, I could use ones without the center, and I could solder the track, or I could put feeders on each piece if that was necessary, but that would be another expense anyway. The other piece that I printed out is somebody designed this re-railer, and it works. I thought at first that it was a little bit high, and but it just might be my desk. But it works like a re-railer does. Gets it right on there, and no problem. So if I ever need a re-railer, I don't have to go out and buy one of these for $10 or $20. I can print them for pennies. So there are some upsides to the 3D printing world, and that's just one of them. So, but I was just happy to get the printer going. I think I had it going nonstop for about 2 days. Once it was working. So the other project I was working on is this car right here. This is an AccuRail car. This is the one you see in the thumbnail, and it was at Scale Model Supply. It was $16.98. It's a steel 40-foot box car. That wasn't really the important part here. I have a CP engine, so I was just like, that caught my eye. The price caught my eye. Most of the prices are up over $20 now. They still have some that are $19, $18, and then a couple of really cheap ones like this. This is the old price that I remember from AccuRail, and I'm sure some of you remember even cheaper prices than that. What I wanted to do with this is, this doesn't really have anything to do with my layout or what I'm doing for the achievement program. Well, it sort of does. I've started a column or article, an ongoing article in the Fusey, which is the Thousand Lakes Region's newsletter, called Model Railroad Primer, and it's designed to be for people maybe that are newer to the hobby or newer to different things. If you want to learn something about something you didn't know, this is kind of the way to go. Oh, Brad, I see you popped in. I missed you earlier. I apologize for that. So again, just giving you an update. I kind of got back in the saddle with model railroading this last weekend. So anyway, so the primer article that I'm presenting is kind of getting, so, there's tons of ready to run stuff. And maybe you want to try, maybe you built a kit for a building, and you want to try getting into building kits for or scratch building cars. A good entry point is an AccuRail kit. It's mostly put together. It doesn't have a lot of parts to put together with it. The instructions are they're short and sweet and clear. And the cost is kind of right for this, but I mean, here are your instructions. Literally, they have 4 steps, basically. This car, interestingly enough, they have on here to add the roof walk, but the roof walk was already attached on there, even though it was a separate part. Then there are things like the stirrup steps and the ladders, which were already added to this. Most of the detail on here are the brake details, but it's literally putting together the bottom, putting the weight in, putting the couplers on, putting the brake details on, and the trucks. And and so I'm taking this from the point of view of I use their couplers and coupler pockets so I used everything that was on here. Hey Dan, welcome in. Dan is somebody I just saw recently on another live stream, and I went out to his channel, and he was pretty active in the live stream, and so I just jumped on his channel, and he's come back here. So nice to have you in here, Dan. So the idea of this is a great entry point for somebody who wants to try it, and try and build something and not just get something out of the box and put it on the layout. So that's what I worked on. So and what I'm doing with these is I'm doing basically companion video for those that want to see it on video. I'm taking video of the projects now, and I'll put them out. I still have to finish up and I have a couple weeks to do it, but finish up the current article on the use of Sculpt-A-Mold, and I have a companion video that I have to finish up there. And basically, the video itself is done, but the audio is not added, and so I have to get back and get that audio piece done. So anyway, so that's what I worked on while I was in the section where the Accurail stuff was. I bought a car for a Proto 2000 kit for when I did the 400 subscriber contest, because they were super cheap at Scale Model Supply. So you can see here I paid $12 plus tax on here. And this is this one is definitely a step up from this one. These are not the they're not Walders. This is a lifelike product before Walders bought them and bought the Proto 2000 series line. Either way, I mean, it's older is what I'm getting at. One of the things I ran into with this one was, it has that old smell to it too. But one of the things I ran into this one that you want to do, if you can open the boxes and see in them, you want to do that, because this one was so warped. I even used a hair dryer on it for a while to try and unwarp the walls to the car. But that didn't go well. So this one is a step up from the Accurail kit. I don't know. Let's see if I can. Okay. So this one's a step up from the Accurail kit just by the fact that it has multiple pages, but it has more sprues of parts and more to do on here. So, it starts you off with the underbody, where you actually have to put the underbody together a little bit more than the brake detail and the trucks and couplers and everything. But then you come to the body and the detail of the body, and there's mostly not any detail on the body. I did have to put on the roof walk and all of these details. And one of the things I learned from this is not easy to deal with these details when they're plastic. They break super easily. You have to be super delicate. So I have a lot of parts missing from this car. We'll see if we can get a close up. but I even on the B end where this is kind of breaking off there, so we'll take that off. But you see a ladder missing on this one over here. I put it on wrong, so I had to take it off, and it was pretty much destroyed. And I destroyed the brake wheel and the really delicate chains and everything are in this really thin plastic. You can see here I added my own steps because those broke so easily, and I have to do that on this side for the stirrups. There's one stirrup that's plastic on here, but it's already bent. So when I was at a recent train show, really cheaply, there were like 5 bags of the A-line stirrups and it was like $2. So I was like, yeah, I'll probably use them because I hate working with stirrups from my last project. But I put those on here. They don't look very good on there. But this is definitely a learning experience for me to be able to put this together. I had to kind of rig some of this up. This isn't perfect either, but this shows that it was definitely a step up from the AccuRail. So Dan, one of the things you're gonna find out about, and if you haven't gone out, if you're a Facebook person and you go out to the Twin Cities division, definitely join the group. It's open for everybody to join, even though it's the Twin Cities division of the NMRA. Ask your questions in there. One of us will answer them. I'll probably answer them wrong and somebody else will correct me. But you'll get all the help you need being new to the hobby. Or I thought you were actually coming back into the hobby if I saw your comment correctly, but we're all here to help. I do this live stream for 2 reasons. I want to show other people the hobby and promote the hobby and say how much fun it is, even when I'm frustrated and kind of hate it for a minute. But it also keeps me on track on what I'm trying to do. So, again, join our group, Twin Cities division of the NMRA, and you won't regret it because you'll find some fast friends there. So, anyway. So the next thing, well, let's provide some other fun news before I move on to what I actually was kind of getting back on the horse with. Tuesday was the Twin Cities Division meeting for the month of November, and I had to miss it because Gopher Girl had a work meeting where she works for a dog trainer, dog psychologist. And so they had a work meeting across town, and we only have one car. And so we couldn't work out the timing based on when her meeting was, and it's a paid meeting, and going to the Twin Cities division meeting was kind of voluntary and don't get paid for that. So priorities are priorities. And then So it does not matter if you do not live in the Twin Cities. Join our group. You're going to feel like you live in the Twin Cities. We're going to convince you to come out and visit our layouts and join our events because we are so much fun. So no, absolutely doesn't matter if you don't live in the Twin Cities. And we like to learn from you too. So you can tell us about where you live and what's going on in the model railroading world there as well. So by all means, just join up. Um, so, um, so the meeting was the meeting. I was, she also had our younger dog Bailey with her, and Bailey got to run around in the space for the dog training and everything. And they had their meeting, and later in the evening on her way home, she unfortunately got a um, a little more than a fender bender. Um, I haven't seen the car yet. I'm going to see it tomorrow, but I'm told by multiple people that, and she was told by multiple people because she didn't see it at the time, that it's pretty much totaled. So she got hit by a semi truck. It was on the passenger side, so she's just pretty much sore right now, and Bailey's just fine. Um, you might think it's pretentious, or you know you might stick your nose up at somebody who has a seatbelt for their dogs, but our dogs have always had seatbelts, and it saved Bailey's life too, because she would have gone from all the airbags went off on the right side. If she was hit by those airbags like a young child, that could injure them. It could have propelled her across the car to the other side, but she happened to be belted into the seat on the other side, and she has a little bit of freedom to move around, but not enough that she would have been over on that side, and it saved her life. So if you have a dog and you don't have a seatbelt for them, I can only encourage you to get a seatbelt for them, and definitely won't look down on you on that. Gopher Girl was wearing her seatbelt, so she's sore from that, but she was safe. She's a little bit more dinged up other than that. So now we have to figure out transportation. Luckily, I work from home. She works from home, so we don't have that obligation. And everybody delivers now. It's a little more expensive to live that way, but everybody delivers, and we were in the process of needing groceries anyway, and so we got a grocery order, and we're fine, and everything, and but we're not mobile, so it's a good thing that well, we'll figure out where we're at, but I might need to hitch a ride to the holiday party in December. Anyway, so enough of the fun stuff, I guess. At this point, just what is going on here? Sorry. All right. So back to model railroading. So besides all of that, I got back in the saddle with with the passenger cars. I did some more sanding here. This is really smooth, so I use the wet sanding technique, and the wet sanding technique is you're really doing more polishing than anything, or leveling. So, and you're trying to not damage the rest of the car when you do that kind of sanding. So, I started with this session with 600 grit sandpaper, and then went to 1,000 grit sandpaper, dipped the sandpaper in water, dipped it, kind of sprinkled the water on here, and then did the sanding. And I did this side. This side didn't need it. There's barely anything on there. But I did run into a problem on the other one when I went to start to well, let's backtrack for a minute, because some of you may not be aware. So these are Walther's Horizon 85-foot passenger coaches. They're originally designed for Amtrak, but there's a number of road names, including New Jersey Transit, that use these type of cars in my time, which was the late 80s, early 90s. The difference in the cars, though, of the time, while they still had the earlier what they call comic cars, um, the comic cars that became popular at that time had center doors. So these don't have center doors, and I picked up like 4 or 5 of these cars at the train show that's monthly in the Chicagoland area at DuPage County Fairgrounds. And I got lucky, very lucky, that a guy had them and gave me a couple dollars off to buy them all. And so the step that I'm getting to here after I finished the underbodies was to get the doors in here. And so this is the step I'm doing. So basically you fill the windows with styrene where you're going to cut them out. Then I use Tamiya putty. This smelly putty I don't love, but it's the white putty here. And you use that, and it shrinks really bad, by the way. And Dan, so Split Rock is Tom. So if you check out he's on TikTok, he's on YouTube. He has it's a layout. It's actually a iron ore business, and so there's no like mainline. There's what do you call them, class 1 railroad or anything. It's all railroad equipment owned by the iron ore company called Split Rock, and it's a fantastic layout. He's a master model railroader through the NMRA. So I encourage you to check out his stuff. The Twin Cities division has also a YouTube page, so some of his stuff is probably on there since he's our social media master. But if you want to see some really good model railroading, if you want to be inspired, you do that. And Tom, I'll put you on the spot, and I'm sure you don't mind it. It was Model Railroader Craftsman, Railroad Model Craftsman, that you have an article in or a cover shot on. What you want to tell us what month and what month that was? Yeah. So the putty is good stuff, Brad. The only thing I don't like is it shrinks a lot. So you have to you can either overuse it and allow it to shrink to kind of where you want and then do the sanding, or you could do layers. Has it been? It's been that long already? Wow. So you could do layers with the putty too. So you could put it on, sand it down, figure out where you're at, and then maybe just use it in the areas that need it. It is good. It sands just fine. The wet sanding technique works really well to polish it. It gets flat. So yeah, it's not bad to use, but it smells really bad. So you want ventilation. Or in my case, I now have a mask because of my allergies and stuff. So after all that being said, let's take a look at this mess. So I'm taking a different tact on how I'm creating the doors for this, or cutting out the doors. Well, I'm doing measurements differently. I think I showed this, but it was a tool that was my dad's. I don't think it was super expensive, but it's about 7 steps up from my my caliper. And one of the things I really like about this one more than anything is this lock or this knob right here where you can lock in your measurement. They change so easily if you bump them or whatever. But I had the measurements already for this. So I used this one to get them on, and this is somewhat straighter than my last attempts were. So this is looking a little better. And I am basing this on directions from an article. And I started to go through and do all of the cutouts. So you have a smaller drill, and you drill the corners, and then you score it, and that's going to make it easier to kind of cut it out later and guide you so you don't go over the lines. But and then you take a 1/8 inch drill and drill. And I don't think my drill bit is very it's not very sharp on the tip of it, so it was moving a lot, so I struggled with that a little bit. But then you see what happened here. If I get this up, or if I maybe focus in on it, so all right. Here is the Facebook page. That's the Facebook page, Dan. So again, here, the styrene from the drill didn't go through that, and it kind of dislodged from it was glued in with Tamiya extra thin solvent and glue, and then it had the putty over top of it, but it broke off in here. Then we look at the other side too. It did the same thing here too. So either I didn't have enough putty and enough glue on there. I'm not sure what happened. I'm sure that I could on the inside reinforce this too. But the drill shouldn't have done that. So I got to look to see if I have a better drill bit than the one I have, or find another drill bit, or find another way to cut it. But I'm going to have to glue those back in. I just put them back. I'm going to have to glue those back in and get some more putty on them, because again, we don't want the cutout to show up of the window. We want it to be flat, so that when the door comes off of there, or when you have the doorway, there will be a gap between the windows and the door, but they'll be flat and it'll be painted and it'll look seamless. So it does come out okay in the end, but I gotta fix that one. But that's as far as I got. Then I got frustrated. We had the most busiest day of the year was today, and I don't know if that's oh, cool, Dan, welcome to the group. I don't know if that's the way to say it, but it was the busiest day of our year at work, and we're still going to be busy through the end of the year and into January a little bit. But I was online. I think I got off of work about 45 minutes before the live stream, and I work basically 12 hours or so today. So I'm a little tired and rambly, so I apologize for that. But what I was really excited about was that I got back working on this, and going back to what my goals were with this is to become a master model railroader. So that's part of being an author and authoring those articles. That's part of it. But you have all kinds of stipulations of building cars and rolling stock and everything. And so I built, and I still have to kind of finish or rejigger some things with the cab car, but that's what I use one of these for, is a cab car. And the rest are going to be coaches. Um, and so these are going to be models that are going to be detailed and qualify, and you need to have multiple cars, and usually most people do like one passenger car related item, and I'm going to have probably 4 passenger cars that I'll present, and the other ones are going to be freight cars. I already merited with the flat car that I did, so I have one down on that. I'm building through 3D printing. I'm designing a gondola and printing a gondola. Maybe this will help, based on that flat car. And so this is just one of the many versions I've printed, and this one's not going to be used, but I'm still refining this one to get it right, and then I'll print that out, and I'm hoping to have this one done for our convention in May. The only problem is I won't be able to go to the convention in May, but maybe I can have somebody bring it with them. Or if not, I can have it evaluated from the division. I can meet with some of the evaluators and they can do that. But so I still got more work to do on this. I kind of put that aside and started other projects, and put these aside, started other projects. And so I'm really trying to get back into it and get refocused. I feel better at work when when I'm on target with this stuff. This motivates me more than work at this point. But I still got to work so I can do this, so I can do the hobby. Well, I appreciate that, Gopher Girl. But I remember, so Gopher Girl and I, last time we were in an accident was 25-ish years ago. And I remember how sore we were after that. We were okay. Totaled that car. But and we were real sore for a while. So yeah, so I'm put some groceries away, did some cleaning, not any big deal, but yeah, we all got to help out and make sure the house runs, since I can't run away from the house now. So that's what I've been up to. So what has everybody else been up to? Dan, like you said, you've kind of pulled out the trains. I saw you running the trains on your videos. You have a couple videos on your channel, and you're so you pulled out some video, got them running, and you and I follow Try Goglin on YouTube, he does not only model railroad hobby, but he also he does some other hobbies, but he's also a rail fan. He documents wherever he goes, and he goes all over documenting stuff, and his videos are really good. They're short and to the point. They're not fancy, but he's got good video. He's got and he explains everything, and so so he's inspiring for sure. And Split Rock, are you working on anything tonight? So And if there's anybody lurking in the background, did want to shout out to our friend Jimmy Land. He put out a video recently of his haul at the recent Train Fest. If you haven't seen that, go check out all the stuff he bought. He's filling up a downtown scene, and so he bought a bunch of stuff for that. That looks really good. One of the up and coming vendors that does called Scale Signs does these incredible signs. Um, so I know that he picked up a bunch of those, and they look really good. And what attracts me to those signs that Scale Signs puts out are the highway signs, because they remind me of the ones that I saw growing up in New Jersey all the time. Oh, off to yep. So I did see you working on the extension, Brad. But I'll have to check out the video. Let me get some of our friends up here. Bear with me for a moment. So let me I'm going to my subscriptions for a second. If I can find them on here. Let's help our friend out and check out. And let's go. I'm going to try and copy this link here. So for Split Rock, see if come on. You can check out Split Rock's YouTube channel there. And Brad's channel is Willow Creek. Give me a second here. We'll get a clickable link here. Let me. So what's nice is YouTube simplified all of their links. They're not all crazy looking. And there is Willow Creek. That's Brad. So Dan, you're gonna do so you're in Arizona, and you're gonna do your layout in your garage. How much space do you have in your garage for your layout? Both Brad and Tom is Split Rock, Brad is Willow Creek. They're both very good scratch builders. And so you'll if you get into, you're going to have a lot of rabbit holes in the hobby. If that's something you get into, you're going to enjoy those. A 4x8 for N scale. Oh, so you're going to have lots of nice room for that in the garage. I started in an apartment. I started with a 4x4 N scale layout. I back in the day, as they say, and it wasn't in the scheme of things, it wasn't that long ago, but it was early 2000s. I got an atlas book for wiring and an atlas book for layouts, like different layouts you could design, and I was looking for something small, so I found the 4x4 layout, went out, got all the track. I got I don't think it was one of the first DCC systems, but it was an Atlas DCC system that you don't see around anymore, and it was this neat little thing, and it worked and all that, and I was brand new to it. And one day something wasn't working, so I uh, went in and took the wires out and put them back in. And apparently I crossed up the wires and fried the thing. So I had it for a short time and I didn't get to fully use it and understand it. It was later on that I got into the DCC. And so I had that small layout. I didn't do a whole lot. I got the track wiring done, and it was running, and I also had a DC engine at the time, this little engine in three passenger cars, was able to run that. And then when we moved to a bigger place here where we're at currently, I had a little more room. So I learned about using a hollow core door, which is 80 inches by 30 inches. So not quite as deep as a 4x8. And it was lighter, and that was the big deal. It was a bit lighter. It had its own detractors, but it still worked. And I built up an end scale layout on that. I have some video of that on my channel. For the Golden Spike Award through the Achievement Program with the NMRA, I got my Golden Spike from what I did on that layout. That's where I first learned to use Sculptamold, for instance, and used it on that layout and did some really neat things. And unfortunately, trying to get it running, I didn't have a real track plan for it. I ended up doing just an oval just to get it running and then build from there. And I built it I had scenery sections. So I had a small 2-block downtown with a train station. I had a suburban area with homes and a suburban train station. Then I had kind of like a camping area and wilderness area where I was trying some water features and things like that. Then I had a kind of an old town because I had gotten some buildings like Walther's kit with 3 buildings. One was like a firehouse and one was like a newspaper, but they were looked like they're from the 1800s. So I did an old town that was a touristy thing, and I did a park, and I had a church, and I did little tombstones and things like that. So learned a lot doing that layout. That was the first one. Sculptamold, it's all relative. To me, they're essentially the same idea, but Sculptamold it's a paper product, and so it's kind of finely crushed up paper into a powder, and you just add water to it. It can be as messy as using plaster. Plaster cloth and plaster is a heavier thing. So you have your 4x4 or 4x8 layout, and I don't know if you plan to move it. You may not plan to move it or anything, but it also puts stress on what you're building on. So you don't, like a hollow core door, I wouldn't suggest plaster cloth. Maybe a thick plywood may be fine with that. And if you're not moving it around, then you don't have to worry about the weight of plaster cloth. But Sculptamold, you can use the old method with the cardboard strips and mesh and things like that, but you don't need to do that. I like using foam, insulation foam, because it's easy to cut. Yes, it's messy and it gets all over if you're cutting it with a knife or something, but I like it for sculpting the landscape and getting that set up. And so when you use the Sculptamold, you're basically doing the same thing. You're mixing it up into in the water, and you're placing it over top, but you're using it as a paste instead of the strips. You're using it as a paste. So I don't know if this will come through, but it's literally, it comes off. It's a little clumpier than a powder. It's not quite. It's mostly powder. I don't know if you can see that in there. but I just enjoyed using it. So let's see, there's this one. There is. Let's see if we can see this a little close up. So these are the samples I'm using in the article and when the video when that comes out. So be sure to watch that. But you can see this on here, and you can see here. I had a sheet of the 1-inch foam left, and I kind of did 3 layers and then cut them down. So this one is that's Sculpt-A-Mold. That's I used the Sculpt-A-Mold to make a mold of a rock here. And then this is just the Sculpt-A-Mold on the foam. And then there's another rock here, and they blend in nicely. And then there are some painting techniques you can use. Here's one where I was trying snow and some vegetation on there over top. But you can see on here that's the Sculpt-A-Mold. And so it's depending on how thick you do your plaster cloth, it's probably about the same. But I could have fully covered this if I made enough Sculpt-A-Mold, and I have plenty so I could still do that. But I was just testing it out and needed some pictures. Here's another one, again, different colors used. Did a weird shape to get kind of rock grooves in here. When you're working with the Sculpt-A-Mold, you'll be able to make it the rock strata that you want. So if you are trying to be true to a certain area that has a certain rock strata, certain cuts into the rock and layers of rock, you can do that with Sculpt-A-Mold. You can score it when it's wet. I tried to do a little bit of an overhang here because it's pasty. That works well. You can't see it real well here, but I was trying a water product on here, trying to show water kind of going down there. But that's the finishing of it. It doesn't take long for the Sculpt-A-Mold. It takes about 15 or 20 minutes to start to get solid, so you can really move it around. You can re-wet it while you're working with it and move it around. So I use my fingers a lot to get what I want, and I just dip my fingers in water if it's starting to dry, and then I form it however I want. But that's Sculpt-A-Mold, and so I think it's just lighter. It can be as messy or as clean as plaster. And then, financially, it's the you don't need to paint or primer it before coloring it. Woodland Scenics promotes the leopard spotting technique where you're just using washes. So this one is a washes with, this had like a yellow ochre, and it had like a raw sienna or burnt sienna. It had burnt umber, and then kind of a black wash over top. This one had 2 colors of gray as a wash, and then black over top to get the shadows. So, nope, this is what I want you to do, is actually ask the questions, because that's my favorite part of model railroading is the techniques, the modeling techniques. And I'm not an expert, but I want people to ask questions, so I appreciate it. But yeah, you don't need to, you can, but you don't need to. One of the times that I worked with it, and again, this had kind of the same kind of earth tone colors as this one did, and then this is I think this one's a Woodland Scenics kind of snow, and then I had made these tufts on here with static grass, and so I placed them in after I had the snow down. But no, you don't need to primer it or anything, especially if you're using washes to color them. It takes paint just fine. It's probably gonna because it's water based and it's a paper product, so it's going to be absorbent. So you're going to use up some of your supplies. Um, um, you're gonna, in other words, it's gonna absorb your paint. It's gonna absorb the water in it and everything. So you could use a primer to put something over top, but then you would truly have to paint them. The advantage of using washes with rock strata is it gets in everything, and so you can color it and have variations and have shadow and have light. um, I think you'll like that more than primering it and painting it. That's my opinion. I've never tried that. I That's not true. I used paint in the past where I was going to put grass down and other products down, because it was a twofold purpose. It gave it a base color of an earth color or a darker color over top of white, but then it was wet, so it acts as a glue. So a lot of people use like latex paint from hardware store. You can also use acrylics. The problem with acrylics, if you're going to put um, landscaping on it and use that as a glue, is you got to do it quick. So it's not the best idea to do it that way. But if you use a latex paint, the latex paint takes time to dry. You can do a brown or an earth tone like that, or even a green earth tone, where you're going to put grass and stuff, and use that as part of your gluing of that scenery. So you certainly could do that, but for Sculpta mold, you don't need to. Um, but like I said, and you're hearing it here, just ask the questions. You're not monopolizing the time. For sure, you're not monopolizing the time, because everybody learns from these live streams. If people don't talk, then they don't learn stuff. So, and again, my favorite part, I'm not an operations guy, not yet anyway. I've done very little with operations. I don't really have operations on the stuff that I have. So my stuff leans towards the modeling aspect. So I love techniques, and I had, for my Facebook page, I created kind of like a business page. It was a hobby page for me. I even had a group for a while. I just found it annoying to have to moderate the group daily. And it had like 1,800 people in it, and it was all about promoting techniques and sharing techniques, and that's what I love most. So I'm happy to share. And one of the things, I think my YouTube channel will have to be a little more successful and things like that. But one of the things I've always wanted to do, if I could afford to do it, was have you guys suggest to me, like, hey, I've never used Sculpta mold. I'm wondering if that's right for me. Maybe you don't want to make the investment or something. Then I would love to be able to come in and do that and learn the technique and show you the technique. And, hopefully help you decide whether you want to try something yourself. So maybe one day I'll be able to do that. But in the meantime, you can learn from all my mistakes as I go through, and learn as I go. For instance, there's not a lot that I could find on building or getting the period that I want for New Jersey transit cars. So I grew up in New Jersey, used New Jersey Transit all the time between New York and Philadelphia. So our hobby shop has about 1,000 magazines of old. And so the Railroad Model Craftsman, Model Railroader, Mainline Modeler, a bunch of niche magazines as well. And what I was able to find out is there was somebody who was considered good in the hobby. That he was good. He built really nice models. He ended up writing 2 articles for Model Railroad Craftsman. So the cab car that I was building and these coaches are all based on an article that I sat down for about 2 hours in the hobby shop on the floor with all the magazines and went through them all to find the right Model Railroad Craftsman to get the article that I needed for this. So it's this Comet 4, Modeling New Jersey Transit Comet 4. I found both magazines and I bought both magazines. They were like 50 cents or 25 cents each. They're now $1. Everything's gone up. But they're in the back room. So I got lucky and I have my source material, including this, and I used this. I blew this up to HO scale, and that helped tremendously in building this stuff. So that was my source material on that, and trying to get that right. This is with this scale and everything, and get the details. So I'm still working on those, but you got to learn from people because everybody's got small skills here, small skills there. I've always been very well. Even on my job that I've been at different levels, I've been at my job for 14 years. I'm not an expert necessarily in any one area. I know a little about a lot. And so that's kind of how you are in the hobby. So you have to, reach out and stuff. So, and Dan, you say you've never used Sculptamold. Well, I've never used plaster on model railroading. So my experience is seeing other people do it, and the effort they put in so I'm learning from them, and I made certain choices about the Sculptamold over plaster without trying the plaster. Now that might work. So I didn't have a layout, for instance, that was up against the wall or anything. So, and I wasn't making gigantic mountains that were going to need those cardboard strips, and to do that way. So it wasn't the right technique for my area, my modeling area and what I was doing. I was also worried about the weight of the against the hollow core door. Hollow core doors are very light and their surface is very thin. So if you put weight, it can warp the surface or simply crack the surface. So that was the original reason I didn't try plaster on there, and I went with Sculptamold, which worked just fine. And I didn't have the Sculptamold all over. I did two things that I built like a little hill on one corner, and I built a tunnel on another corner, and I used Sculptamold over top of that. Both those things. Dave Frury, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's been around the hobby forever. He's up in the Northeast. He uses Sculptamold, and he does his thing is scenery, and he's done DVDs and things in present. He's made a business out of it, and he's on YouTube. I still go back and watch his stuff all the time. He's somebody definitely from a scenery point of view. Um, the Twin Cities, there's lots of resources for operations when you want to get into operations. But the Twin Cities group has lots of operations experience, loves operations. There is the Crossing Gate podcast put out by our division. And you can get that on the website or your local, whatever your podcast, like Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Um, Talk a lot of operations there. There are a lot of people in our group that can help you out when you're trying to design your plan. There's the LD SIG, which is the layout design SIG, that can help you when you're deciding on what you want to do with your layout. And then, if you decide to do something close to the prototype or base something on the prototype, there's lots of resources out there to find that can help with that. Yeah. So yeah. The other thing, everybody's, even I try to do things as cheap as possible because I'm not made of money. I only have so much. I get $10 out of my paycheck, and I get 2 paychecks a month. So I get $20 a month where I can spend that on model railroading. So I don't have a lot of savings or anything to go into that. And so I have to be frugal in some areas. So I'm always looking for that. So you'll even find people who say they can make their own sculpt-a-mold. There's an older technique that a lot of people like called ground goop. That's another option for you. It'll take going to your local hardware store and getting some type of like potting soil or something like that. I don't know that one as well, but the results of that are nice too. But it's called ground goop usually. So if we do, and it has like 3 ingredients in it. For good old AI helps with that. It's celluclay. It's called, the other piece of it's called vermiculite. That's what I was trying to get at. It's called vermiculite, and you get that at your Home Depot type of store. And there's plenty of videos on ground goop, so that's another thing to look at as you look at what you want to do for scenery. And the other thing you can do, I mean, you can even simplify it, especially if you decide like you're going to cover it's called ground goop. Let's see here. I know this YouTuber. His name is Andy Dorsch. So you probably I would kind of trust him as far as if I'm giving you something. But you can try checking out, see if that video has information on ground goop. It's called Easy Ground Goop Scenery Technique for your model railroad. So that's another one to try. Depending on what you want. If you're going to cover it like a forest and you're going to cover something up like that, you may not even need to go that far. Maybe you just paint some, foam, because foam's easy to get trees into, and you're going to cover that all up. You're going to put some, debris like branches and leaves and grass down, and then you're going to cover it with trees. Maybe you don't need to go that far, so you can do something like that. But yeah, so what you're doing, like I said, is you're opening up a rabbit hole, and and there are lots of them, and you're going to have lots of them in the hobby, and you're going to get interested in something else while you're working on stuff. And, just depends on how much time you have to work on stuff and where your interests lie. But yeah, there's definitely plenty of things that you can do for scenery surface. Um, One of the things that I did, because it's passenger and it was a double track, and when I was doing N scale, I was using Cato track, and I actually put their ballast over top of that, and you don't need a lot for that. But between the tracks, there was ballast too, so that covered up an area. So that's an area you don't need scenery on because you have that sort of thing. And then I did a city scene, so I didn't need scenery under that. So you don't where, so you just want to, plan where you need it and figure out the best technique to get what you're looking for. And that may just be trying stuff. And as I say, just jump in on here all the time. So, yep, it can get overwhelming to start, and for a long time I went through analysis paralysis. And why I say just jump in all the time was it took me finally getting frustrated with myself, just going to the hobby shop and getting a magazine or looking at the magazines and not coming home with anything, that I had a bag of scenery material, and I finally grabbed a pair of scissors and cut the corner open and just dumped it on that 4x4 layout. And I never even finished that. And then, oh no, I didn't do it. And that wasn't on the 4x4. It was on the the hollow core door. That was just sitting there. I had gotten so far, and I just stopped, and I was having that whole thing, and too many things were on my head. And so I just cut that open, and that got me started. And I didn't do any prototyping. I didn't look at pictures except for when I was doing some small scenes around the area, just to get an idea. Like, I had one area that was rather industrial looking, so I was trying to get an idea of like the color of ground foam to put down and stuff. So yeah, rabbit holes. I think it's more about rabbit holes than it is about the hobby sometimes, and you just kind of have to find the hole, go down that hole, become an expert at it, and before you move on to the next rabbit hole. So, but just keep at it and keep asking questions. Social media, all the knocks on social media has really brought the hobby together. And if I'm not sure if you're a part of the NMRA, you have the Interchange, which is a Discord channel where you are then connected to the tens of thousands of NMRA members. So, you should check out, if you're not part of the NMRA, you should check out your local divisions or region that Arizona is part of, and NMRA.org will get you your area divisions and regions, and you'll have some people you can contact there. But ask around. You don't have to go to the NMRA website for that. Just ask around. Ask on social media. Get to know people in your area. I'm sure there are some clubs out and about there too that maybe you don't have to necessarily join, but you can get to know people in them. And there's I don't know, there's at least 3 club layouts that I know in the Twin Cities, and a Fremo layout. So they're always moving that stuff around. It shows, and they have a spot in a local mall that they take up sometimes. And some of those people I cross over with on social media. Some I cross over with in the division. But I went out there. I was having an issue of how was I going to draw track power to the cab car at the originally time I was thinking without a decoder, just to have lights and things work in that if I was going to have an engine on the other side of the car. And I got advice from that group. I had actually two people tell me or give me advice on how to make that happen. And so, yep, you've got lots of resources. And so we welcome you in with open arms back into the hobby. We welcome you. So appreciate it. Let's see here. And if anybody else hasn't, I should put this up here too for other folks. I think everyone would benefit from seeing his channel. Or, all right, let's see here. And what's nice about YouTube is they have these tags on them. So you can either type in the youtube.com/ and then the tag, or you can actually just search. So you can search for me as at DMRJ for Dan's Model Railroading Journey, and you'll find me on there. For Trigoglin, you will find him by doing at Trigoglin. And he does tons of stuff. I don't know if he's in the St. Louis area, but he's in the Midwest. I don't know. I'm sorry. I think he's in Ohio. See if I can find it. And he was just at Deschler, which is with the meet and greet with other YouTubers. I have yet to get to a meet and greet with other YouTubers, but there are plenty out there from Canada to California to Florida, all over the place. Here in the crazy Twin Cities. But yeah. Yep, Ohio area. I remember him doing the entertainment video, and then when that was the first introduction to entertainment, and he's telling us it's closing down, and I'm like, why are you featuring that and making me want to go when they're going to close it down? So anyway, but I enjoy his channel. With that though, it's a Friday night during hockey season, so I have some hockey watching to do with Gopher Girl, and so I'm gonna go ahead and just call it an evening tonight. And I'm just gonna say, as I always do, remember to just jump in and try something. You never know what you're gonna like, but you're definitely gonna like it when it's model railroading. So everybody have a good night, and we'll see you next time.